Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I've got some hot sauce that I've been drinking all day because Palantir is on fire today. Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of those episodes where we kind of just sit back, relax, and talk a little bit about some of the Palantir price action today. This is not an episode where we have different segments and look at all these different articles and news. No, this is a day where we sit back and for the next 10 minutes, we get to enjoy in the beauty of $19.70 freaking cents. Palantir up 7.66% on the day. Just an absolutely incredible performance by Palantir. 7% is not easy, especially because Palantir was up 30% in the prior week after earnings when we went from about 1530 to 1840 on the highs. So to break out today is just really just amazing price action. I have a couple of thoughts about why we're breaking out, what's happening, what is probably the reasoning for some of the speculation on the price action, especially on a Friday. Palantir, I mean, all stocks in general on Fridays are not supposed to do as well as normal because people tend to sell off for the weekend because they're afraid of any uncertainty that happens over the weekend. But Palantir was an outlier today in the entire stock market. So as you can see, one day up 7.66%. Over the past 5 days, up about 4%. Over the past month, up about 10%. Past 6 months, up 99%. Year to date, currently Palantir is up 207.82%. Look, it's pretty big, and we're seeing a really big jump on Palantir today for a couple of reasons. So first of all, let's go right back here. $19.69 right now on Palantir. In the morning, we were at around 18.20. And I was like, oh, so we're down a little bit. We're up a little bit, right? 18.20, 18.30 didn't matter too much. 92 million shares have been traded today. And then we jumped from 18.20 to 18.80. And that's where I was like, oh, that, 60-cent jump. That's a pretty big jump. You're going to see some momentum there, right? 1820 to 1880, that's pretty intense. And then you see this big green thick candle right here. This is where we jumped up to 1915. And from 1915, even I was like, well, we're in the 19s. We're deep in the 19s. 1915 is not too bad. But then from 1915, we went to 1920. I was like, okay, 1920. Then we went to 1930. Then we went to the 1940s, and I was like, this is kind of insane. 1950s, and this was all being followed along on Twitter, so make sure you follow me on Twitter because it was just live tweeting all this stuff happening. Then 1960s, and now we're in the 1970s. So really, really exciting price action, and I want to give a couple of thoughts for why I think this price action is happening and why we're seeing some of this momentum. Number one, I think the NHS contract, the thing I discussed yesterday, and the digital health report that dropped, basically the news that the NHS announcement is imminent, I think people know about it. Vegas knows about it. The stock market knows about it. Someone knows about it, because to get a 7% jump in a company that has 2-point-something billion shares outstanding is not easy, especially on a day where there's no earnings, there's no hyped media attention on Palantir, right? It's not Q3 earnings. It's like it's a regular Friday in the stock market on November 10th. Like, why is it rallying as high as it is? I think that NHS report started to hit some of the algorithms around larger institutional investors, and they started to recognize, hey, if Palantir gets this $600 million contract, forget the money, the idea that they're going to control an entire company's healthcare, that's a big deal. And that opens up a lot more contracts in the future for Palantir to be able to win in regards to different things in the healthcare space, right? Other socialized healthcare systems that might be using Palantir. On top of that, I think some other reasons are the Titan contract and governmental contracts writ large. I'm actually going to be speaking to someone this Saturday who is one of the experts in the community around Palantir contracts. And so it's going to be a really good live interview, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Saturday on this channel. And what he's going to be discussing is the really big pie that Alex Karp has been speaking about in terms of government revenue. There's a big pie for us to be able to get. His argument is that the pie is bigger than most shareholders can even understand. Palantir has not won the entire pie, but Palantir is in the running to win that pie. One of the parts of that pie is the Titan contract, which is worth about $1.5 billion. I have zero speculation or understanding if Palantir won the deal or if Palantir is going to win the deal. My assumption is, with the price action we saw today, is that some people around some parts of the world, some investors, are thinking that, hey, maybe some deals are going to be announced. And if some deals are going to be announced, that's going to have a lot of momentum on the stock price. That's going to be a lot more exciting for the stock, whether it's the NHS deal, Titan contract, which was supposed to be announced by the end of this year. We'll see if it ends up getting announced. But there is speculation in the broader ecosystem that there are different deals that may be announced. And as a result of that, Palantir may be benefiting from that. Those are kind of the core reasons I have for the speculative nature of the price action today. Obviously, earnings have been amazing since Q3. We got a ton of price target upgrades. A lot of those price target upgrades, the highest level we have is Dan Ives 25. And then if you look at some of the other banks, it's 21 bucks. It's at 1970, right? It's very close to that $21 price target that is factoring in another year's worth of earnings into the company. So one could start to argue, hey, well, we're already getting up to that price target. Is there another reason for, or is there more momentum in the company? And so are some of these price targets not as high as they need to be? Another thing to think about here is what happened with Datadog. I think this is having a little bit more of an inflection on Palantir a couple days after their earnings. Datadog was up 30% on an amazing earnings. They beat every metric they had to beat. They showed they could do really well. Snowflake went up as a result of that. In fact, let me just show this right here. Palantir right now, 1969. If we go to Datadog, Datadog 103, up another 3% today. There you see that big green candle from 77 to 104. Right? Like SaaS company did really well. Market was excited. And then Snowflake up 3% of the day, 160. It was at 138 a while ago on November 3rd. So it's been 7 days. November 3rd to November 10th went from 138 to 160. Datadog 70 to 104, Palantir from 15 to 1967. All these market caps are starting to get closer. Snowflake at 52 billion, Palantir at 42 billion, Datadog at 34 billion. And so we're seeing some premium baked into a lot of these SaaS companies because maybe the market is starting to recognize, look, in a high interest rate environment, these companies are putting up numbers and they're performing. Palantir, I think out of all three companies I mentioned, along with the other SaaS companies, 0 debt, 3 billion in cash, GAAP profitable for 4 quarters in a row. S&P 500 inclusion will happen next year at some time. And then this is the big one. There is a retail cult around this stock, and that is not a bad thing. In a company, like any investor that's invested in a company, I've said this for a very long time, you want to be invested in a company that people go crazy over. You want to be invested in a company where a guy wearing a crazy beanie and a nice dress shirt will make a video about every single day for the past 2 years, right? Like you want to be invested in those companies because that means that people won't sell at these prices. Now, people going to take some profits? Maybe, but even when it got to 1919, 1920, 1930, people weren't selling, people weren't taking their profits because when the cult understands the potential of what they're working with, when they see all the contracts, when they see, the leadership of Alex Karp, etc., they don't want to take profits. They want to sell. They want to be like, you know what? Let's keep it going. And you don't sell your winners. You let them run. And you need a cult following like a Tesla to really be able to get the momentum on the stock price to keep it going. As you can see, it went from 1919 to 1933. Then we went to 1946. Then we went to 1963. And then I had a couple memes. So let me show my couple memes. This is because we all, it's a community event. We're at 52, not 52 week highs. Our 52 week high was 20, but we're close to 52 week highs. We got to celebrate some of the memes in the community. This is Rishi from RBC, ladies and gentlemen, who has a $5 price target on Palantir. So this is what I think he'll end up looking like when Palantir, or while he's waiting for Palantir to get to $5. Another meme, unfortunately, David, I got to do this to you. You commented this publicly on the channel, so everyone's got to see it because, your comment's public. One of my subscribers who watches my videos got a margin call. He's down $51,000 on his $15,000 short for Palantir. He had an average of 1577 on that short. The short interest for Palantir also came out, and let me put that up. And look, David, I think I've interacted with you in the comments, but you don't short a generational company, in my opinion. I really think you got to be very careful when it comes to shorting these types of companies because they can run on you. And just like those covered calls, your shares can be called away if they run past your strike because they can just run. Like, who would have thought Palantir's up 7% today after being up 30% after earnings? Like, it's pretty insane. Shares sold short of Palantir, 155 million. So from the last time this was reported, it's down 2%. So 2% less shares have been sold short. The percentage of the float is 8.62%. So 8.6% of Palantir is sold short. Those shorts are not having a great day, at least on today. And the percentage of shorts has decreased by 2.12% from the last time it was reported. So still 155 million out of 2.2 billion shares are sold short, 8% of the float, but it is reducing as per the last time that it was reported. And then this is the last thing I want to leave you guys with on today. This is what I tweeted. Palantir is a once-in-a-generation company. There's so many garbage stocks in the market. Few companies have a real moat. Palantir is exciting, mysterious, philosophical, and it's going to do $2.1 to $2.2 billion in revenue this year, and the street is finally starting to learn what retail has had learned for 2 years. If you're part of this channel, I've been buying Palantir at $7, $6, $8, $9. All of us here that were part of the channel were averaging down, DCAing. Even if we don't have the best averages, we were buying the company when it was going to all-time lows because we saw the potential. And it's one of those things, like sometimes you get to pat yourself on the back. Like, look, we saw something that Wall Street didn't see. Wall Street was wrong. Retail was right. And now Wall Street has to buy their shares at a much higher price than retail because retail understood at the time what the potential was, and we were willing to take that risk. And that was all because of crowdsourcing and the entire community, which is just one of the most amazing internet communities on the planet, that came together. The amount of DMs I get every day, people just crowdsourcing DD, all that stuff came together for us to recognize, hey, this is a company you want to take a risk on. This is a once-in-a-generation company. This is a company that actually has a moat. There's so many stocks in the market, that tech companies that don't really have a moat. Like, they could be growing super quick. They could be growing faster than Palantir, but do you have a moat? And Karp has been very clear about this. If you don't have a moat, you're not that interesting, because that growth will eventually die off. Do you have something sustainable for the long term? I think Palantir is one of those companies that does. And as a result of that, today we get to enjoy the day. Now, on a green day, everything's awesome. We have a ton of euphoria, right? Stocks are up. We're feeling great. This could turn red. This could keep going higher. I have no idea what's going to happen. I personally would not be rushing to buy a crap ton of shares right now. Could it go higher next week when the NHS is officially announced? Yes. Could it also the news be sold off? Yes. And I think the one thing I've been humble enough to learn over the past 2 years is I have no clue what's going to happen. That's why you just want to DCA and relax on some of these days when it runs up. You tend to not buy on the days where it's running up super high because you're chasing it, and you just chill back. And you're like, look, if you want to be in a long-term relationship with this company for the next 10 years and you think $19 is a fair price right now based on the evaluation, then that's your decision. But if you think, hey, it could come down a little bit, it's run up a little bit too much in the past couple of weeks, and you want to wait, that's also totally fine. If you want to take some profits because they're sitting on a $9 average and you're like, you know what, I want to take a little bit of profits, I want to go pay some stuff up, that's also totally fine. The point is, it's important to recognize that it is days like this that make up for all of the pain of DCAing and all the due diligence you do, because when it runs like this, it runs. And you're either in or you're out before the run happens. And so you get to bask in a little bit of the glory if you were in before the run because you chose to do the due diligence and got some analysis and decided to make a decision that this is going to be a company you want to take a bet on. And I think we're just getting started. I don't think, and I'm not just talking about the stock price. I think the story of Palantir has another decade to play out, and the next 5 years are going to be really, really exciting for Palantir. And I'm excited to cover it every single day and be part of the journey and be one little part in this overall story of this really amazing company that's trying to change the entire world and become one of the most important software companies in the world, which I think will make it worth a lot more than it is today one day, even though I don't know when that's going to happen. Congrats to shareholders. We'll see if this price holds up. Not a bad way to end Friday. We'll have Palantir Weekly tonight, breaking down all this stuff and all this stock action and all the news we got this entire week. And yeah, let's keep it going from there. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. Hot sauce, because it's hot, baby. I'll see you guys on the next one.